everybody. Welcome to Life Stories Podcast, Ministries Making a Difference. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. Today on the podcast, I chat with Jen Bolden and Valerie Murray from Christian Homes and Family Services. I had the privilege of meeting Jen and Valerie when they did a presentation at the Pregnancy Center where I volunteer. I loved this program so much that I asked them that day if they would be guests on the podcast. Christian Homes and Family Services is an adoption agency that works with the birth mother throughout her pregnancy and even after she gives birth, and also with the families that are looking to adopt. It is a beautiful program, and I cannot say enough good things about it. I encourage you, if you know someone that is looking to adopt, if you know someone who has an unplanned pregnancy that isn't sure what to do, to check out their website, point them to that place, and at least have them look through the resources that they offer. The women were so kind, and I know the people that work there will be the same. They will listen, they are gracious, and they will help as much as they are able to. Also, I have to say, this podcast is real life. This is real people talking about real things, and sometimes we're on the road buying plants while we're doing an interview. Does not bother me a bit. We had a wonderful conversation, but I just wanted to point that out. I hope you have a great day, and I thank you for being here. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So I loved seeing your presentation at Hope when y'all came, and I think adoption is such a beautiful thing for so many reasons, but it's another opportunity for a woman to choose life. And I love that. And I just think it's incredible. I know lots of people that are adopted. I know lots of people that have adopted children, and I just think it's wonderful. And so I love the presentation that you did. And I know it was, maybe an hour. It wasn't everything probably that y'all do and could have shared. So I want to know about Christian Homes. How did y'all both get involved with this company? I mean, it's so sweet and it's wonderful and it's so important. But how did you both get involved in it?
I was thinking about it today, like, how did I get here? I'm so passionate about what I do, but I think it goes back to, I'm a missionary kid. I was born on the mission field. My parents had servant hearts, so I grew up with that example. And I think just being somewhere where I can tangibly live out my faith, it doesn't have to be in Africa or, across the globe. It can be in my community, and just being able to serve. I think that's what led me there. We moved to the Abilene area where Christian Homes has their main office, and I was just looking for something where I could participate in that, and interviewed and just felt like it met that need of being able to serve, and have compassion for those who can't help themselves at times, and to just like I said, tangibly live out my faith.
Right.
I think that's really the heart of it for me.
Sure. How about you, Jen?
And I came over to the States as a teenager. My parents were also missionaries with Youth with a Mission.
Oh, yeah.
And so I grew up, kind of with that example of whatever you do a job that's helping somebody. I can't imagine doing a job where you feel like you're just putting in the hours and you're not doing something to try and help somebody. And I soon discovered, like you, I love asking questions. I love hearing people's stories and families, working with families. And so having worked for the state for CPS on and off for 8 years in different positions, I loved the idea of the permanency of the infant adoption program, and that there was no, or less, should I say, instability for families. And then I also love that they kind of put their money where their mouth is. They don't just suggest that women choose life, but they actually help them choose life and provide a way for them to be able to choose life. So that was something that really got my attention and made me want to apply. So when I came over here last year, just in the September, I started with Christian Homes.
Okay. That's awesome. So I know Christian Homes is a very different kind of program than a typical adoption agency. Why is it different? What is different about it?
I think what I have seen over the years is that what stands out to me is that we are birth mother driven. And by that, I mean, birth mothers come first, and they choose the family that's going to parent their child. They choose what kind of adoption. There's open, closed, semi,
Right.
open, as we had talked about in that training we did. And so really it's all about meeting the birth mother's needs. We love our adoptive families and we do a good job taking care of them, but we make a point to say we are birth mother driven. And I really feel that we are doing that. And as we walk alongside them, just putting their needs, in a time in their lives where they're so vulnerable,
Right.
in such crisis, sometimes they can have some kind of control, in
Yeah.
choosing a family and choosing the kind of adoption, things like that. So to me, that's one way that we really stand out, that I think is an amazing. When I've seen other agencies or other ways of doing things, I love the way we do things.
I really love that whether our birth moms want an open adoption or not is totally up to them. It's their
Yeah.
choice. But I love that it's a requirement of our adoptive families, that
Yes.
they are open to open adoption.
Yeah.
And so at no point does the mom have to wonder, how is my baby doing? They will always have the opportunity to know and have that information given to them, whether it's directly or whether it's through Christian Homes, but they'll never be kept in the dark and just
Sure.
not know how their baby's life turned out. I really
Mhm.
like that because
Yeah.
that's something I had never worked with an agency that's done before.
Yeah, I loved that too when y'all talked about that. So the adoptive families, I know they have to go through a long process and there's things that they have to do. I know y'all have very high standards for them.
Mhm.
How do you make sure that they meet those standards? Or can you make sure that they do?
I'm always forthright and say, we can't make promises to birth mothers about
Right.
offering them perfect families, but we tell them that, we abide by the minimum standards of Texas, and then we have elevated it to requiring so much more. And we require them to come to Abilene, to our home office where we lay eyes on them.
Yeah.
We spend time with them, and the requirements of the referrals that they're required to have. We require that they give us their testimony of how they're going to raise a child in a Christian home.
Yeah.
And so those requirements and the things that they're required, the fulfillments, it's just, to me, it's families that come to us have a strong desire to meet the needs of the birth mother and what she wants.
Yeah.
Something that I would add is our references.
Yes.
With other agencies I've worked with, they could choose their 3 references. And so you can always in some way choose 3 people that you think are going to say something positive about you. I
Right.
really love that with Christian Homes. It's your neighbor, it's your boss, it's your
Right.
minister. So it's
Mhm,
designated
mhm.
people, and you're not getting to kind of micromanage in any way how that reference is going to come and
Sure.
portray you.
Sure.
Which I feel like is a lot safer. I mean,
Absolutely.
and they're also completely anonymous, the references. They don't go
Yeah.
through the family. And so people
Okay.
can be really impartial and really honest about what they want to say. So
Yeah. That's right. They could.
People can see through you when you try to make promises of,
Right.
we have these perfect
Yeah.
families. I think people see through that, and so just to guide them through the process of what we require, I think is very meaningful to them.
Yeah. For someone that's listening who maybe is pregnant, or maybe they have a daughter that's pregnant, or they know someone who is thinking about adoption, can you go through I know it's a long process, but just like a kind of an overview of how it's handled at Christian Homes?
Sure. So we have different ways that they can reach out to us. We have a 1-800 number. We make it clear and that they can call, text, chat, because not everyone wants to pick up the phone and call. They can text, and so very often that's the way they engage with us. Women engage with us. And so we're happy to text. We're very available 24/7. We have on-call workers, and so we are 24/7 available to answer those calls, that they can reach out to us and just ask any questions. A lot of times they are just in such crisis and have such immediate needs that it's really not, we're just trying to meet them where they are in that
Right.
moment. They may be homeless. They may be in a, scary situation. So we, make sure they're safe, and where are you, and are you in a safe place? Sometimes that conversation starts
Right.
that way, making sure they're okay to have a conversation. And then, we as if, we talk to them, and if they're interested in following through with adoption, we will meet with them, or sometimes they're just not sure, they want to talk about what it looks like. So we meet with women just to sit down and say, this is what adoption looks like, because
Right.
sometimes they're misinformed about what adoption is.
Yeah.
They may not have, they may have been watching movies, or have, a friend or a family member that had a bad experience with CPS or something, and so they may not understand what it is. So we spend lots of time communicating with them, either by text or call, or meeting with them,
Yeah.
and just kind of so that they're fully aware of what adoption is. And so just kind of explaining to them what adoption is, hearing their story, where
Yeah.
they are, meeting with them, providing counseling, hearing what's going on in their lives. And so that's really where we start. And then if they're interested in continuing on with adoption, we bring them into services. We do a budget with them to help meet their needs. Another way that we stand out that I thought about mentioning before is, we provide, if they're housing inadequate, they can come to our apartments. We have apartments. We
That's
partner with
wonderful.
Hannah House as well. So if they're in need of housing, they can, come stay with us in our apartments, and a caseworker, they'll be assigned a caseworker. So whether they're in the community or in the apartments, they'll have a caseworker to go through all the steps that we mentioned, the lengthy process of, choosing a family, choosing what
Right.
kind of adoption they want, all of those things. And just counseling along the way. It's not a decision that's made overnight.
Right.
And we always tell them, you've got to think everything through, and
Yeah.
our caseworkers are amazing at working through the difficult with them, with their
Yeah.
families and all the issues.
That's awesome. What is the process like looking for, and I know y'all talked about this in the training, but when they're looking for a birth family, how do you narrow it down for the women that are coming? You have these families and you kind of, or do you let them go through all of them, or how does that work?
When we have our adoptive families sign up to work with us, there is a form that they can go through and kind of check what they're open to. And we want them to be as honest as possible. We don't want them to feel, embarrassed that maybe they don't feel like they could cope with something that maybe somebody else could cope with, whether it be drug exposure or a certain health condition or a genetic condition. And so they go through quite an extensive list, both for the mom, the dad, and the grandparents. Just because we want them to have a full idea of what could be on the table, so to speak. And so that way, when we are presenting families that might be a good match to the birth mom, we don't just present everybody, because we certainly don't want them to fall in love with a couple that they see the picture of, and then we know that family is perhaps very nervous about accepting a baby with any exposure to anything, and we maybe know some of the mom's history. So we try and prevent heartbreak in that direction as well, because we don't want them to ever feel rejected or judged for whatever lifestyle they've had leading up to the pregnancy, just like we don't want the family to get their hopes up and then have their heart broken. So we try and protect on both sides, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I would think it would have to be like that. You talked about the heartbreak. I know that, a birth mother has so many hours, is it like 48 hours, I think, after she gives birth before she has
48.
to make that. And isn't it that they don't allow them to make that decision until then? Don't they make?
Yes.
They
The
make
Texas law is 48 hours.
Yeah. So have there been instances where they've changed their mind at the last minute, or they've, they have? I know that y'all offer so much support for the birth moms and the adoptive families. What happens? How do you help those families when, the mom has the right to change her mind, but I know it's heartbreaking. How do you help them through that? We
kind of let them know ahead of time that is always a possibility on the table. Just because we don't ever want them to think anything's a sure thing. And no matter how much you say it, you can never prepare somebody for that kind of heartbreak. But we always try and discuss it leading up to it and ahead of time, just to to give them the idea that it is always a possibility up to that 48 hours.
Yeah. So, Christian is in the name of the agency. Is it important that the adoptive parents are committed to the Lord? Are Christian values an important part of the process with these families?
Yes, absolutely. They actually would sign a statement of faith and sincerely held beliefs with us in order to work with us. And that is something that they would read through, and our values and our beliefs at Christian Homes. Because before the couples even come to orientation, we want to make sure that we are on the same page, and that they are not only thinking it's a great idea, but that they're willing to commit to following those same values as they bring the baby up. So
I think it's so important. I loved that. And I loved, when y'all did the training, that you played a video. It was a birth mom and told her story. Do y'all offer any of that online? Any kind of videos?
Yes, we do.
You do. Okay.
Yes,
that was so powerful.
Yes. It's amazing the impact that video has had. And I actually got to see that birth mom at our orientation. She came and spoke at our orientation back in February, and I told her, I was like, you have no idea how much impact the video has made.
Yes.
At different PRCs, so many people have said that how much it touched them hearing her story. So.
Yeah. I think women need to hear that. And I know they're not all like that. They're not all, everything absolutely falls into place perfectly and, works out. But she talked about the difficult parts of it. She talked about the grieving. So it's not like she pretended like it was all good.
No,
she was very honest. But
I very honest.
Yeah. Women need to see that. Women that are in that position need to see, okay, it can be okay. It can work
absolutely
out,
Yeah. And something I love about that video is I think that as a society, we have a view of what unplanned or surprise pregnancies look like.
Yeah.
And we don't always think of somebody like that particular birth mom as being in that situation. And I think that can appeal to a whole wide range of women who may find themselves in the same circumstance.
I agree.
And to let them know that they're not forced either way to make that they still have options, even if they traditionally could take the baby and raise the baby and everything be just hunky-dory, but maybe it's not what they feel like is best for what they would choose for that baby.
Right. What do you think the ratio is of families that want to be that involved, like adoptive families want to be involved, and then those that don't? And I guess it's up to the birth mother also. Maybe she doesn't want all of that.
Yes. Everything with our birth mothers is so case by case. It just depends.
Right.
It's not always like they just come together and partner and do things. It's the birth mother's desire. There's certain situations that stand out that has been such a beautiful relationship, but they don't always want that. And so, I guess my point in saying that was sometimes that helps the birth mother along the process of the adoption when she can see the family, get to know them, but we've also had situations where they participate and then she can, she chooses to parent. So it's really, you just never know. I think something, that stands out about our caseworkers is that they really try to process all the hard things early on with the birth mother. They don't wait until that 48 hours to process the difficult situations with a family or the birth father, or if they haven't told their mother, or for whatever they're dealing with. And so if the caseworkers, try to work through, if you don't want to tell your mother, it's up to you, but let's talk about why, and so that because who are you going to want to call when you have your baby,
exactly.
Your mom. And so there's just, they really try to navigate the difficult situations so that at 48 hours, you're not loaded with all these difficult conversations, And so I think that's really a way that I love how we work with our birth mothers to just to deal with the hard things as they can.
That was going to be one of my questions, is how do you balance helping them and guiding them and then having them make their own decisions? Like, that's probably a tricky thing with those caseworkers. But like you said, that's awesome that they go through the hard things before it even gets to that point. But, I guess there's got to be a balance there.
it's their, yeah, to just to make sure that they're the ones that are in control of
Right.
that it's their decision. We would never want anyone to think that it's our decision. We go out of our way
Right.
to make sure it's the birth mother making that decision. We are
Yeah.
never in a position to tell her what to do or
Right.
to, you know, we're just there to help her process and
Yeah.
and this is her desire to make an adoption plan, and we are here to help her pursue that plan, you know, and navigate all the hards, you know.
Yeah. One thing I didn't ask about is the financial aspect of medical bills and all the things. Is that something that the adoptive family ever takes care of for the birth mother, or is it, how does that work?
So they, as an adoption agency, they pay a fee to when they come to our agency. There's a placement fee that they pay that covers
Okay.
all the. So we are a ministry,
Right.
and so someone who comes to us and we minister to, they come into our come into our services, and they may not choose to place. We have taken care of her. We have ministered to her. We have paid her bills.
Yeah.
And so as a ministry, that's how we, for all the women, you know, for all the women that come to us, we help take care of them. And then the ones that choose to place.
Right.
Does that make sense? It's kind of like an average.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an average cost.
Right.
Situation where
Yeah.
the placement fee for the family takes care of that.
Yeah.
They're not paying each bill
Right.
that comes.
Right.
Know.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about the apartments. Y'all had apartments available for women that were in need of a place to stay. Is that just for the remainder of the pregnancy, or is that at all after the baby is born, or?
So they can stay in our services financially 6 weeks post placement. That's the state of Texas. So they can stay in our apartments.
Okay.
If they're in the community, we'll help continue with helping them with their bills 6 weeks post.
Wow. That's awesome.
One of the things that we try and encourage moms while they're staying at the apartments, because their bills are covered, is that they are able to work if they want to, and then they can save that money, because we want them at the end of that 6 weeks to have the ability to pay a deposit and a first month rent, so that they're not kind of left high and dry. And then also that in no housing situation that I've looked at, or at least that I've encountered personally, have they been able to bring their children, but they're able to bring their other children to the apartment.
Yeah.
Which is quite significant, because something coming into this job, I didn't realize how many moms I worked with would already have other children.
Yeah.
I assumed it was all
first time,
late teenagers, early 20s. It was the first baby, but I mean, a lot of the women we worked with have children already prior to this pregnancy. So
that's amazing. I love that y'all are able to do that.
As I share about Christian Homes, as I'm talking with you here, you know, I see different faces of different women that I've worked with, and they're all so different. You know, some choose to partner early with the adoptive family and have that relationship. Some don't ever want to meet them, and to let them know that's okay, and that they can change their mind later for it to be an open adoption. It's kind of can be a fluid situation. And so I guess that goes back to just being birth mother driven. It's what their desires are as they navigate such a difficult time in their lives, that they can truly have some kind of control of how it goes.
Right.
And so that, you know, it's just really case by case. Each birth mother has such an amazing adoption story, whether the adoptive family ever hears it or not. You know, sometimes it's sad to me when the birth mother doesn't want to meet them, because she's just such an amazing person, and I want them to know her, and because each mother has such a big story, you know.
I can imagine on y'all's end, because you do want to let the birth mothers be in charge of their story, but you see every step. I just can imagine me as a mom, my heart not getting, trying to keep my heart from getting involved in every single one that I work with. And I know that's got to be hard.
Yes.
It's got to be hard.
Yeah.
But I love that y'all are doing what you're doing. I just think it's so beautiful. And like I was telling Jen, I think before you got on the beginning, it's another opportunity for a woman to choose life. And I think that's so important. And so I love that y'all are doing this.
Thank you. We enjoy doing it.
While we're on that note, just something, whether it's edited out or not, I had taken some notes, and I don't know if I really shared. I mean, I think it was when I was writing down some things, some thoughts about, working for Christian Homes and what it meant and how it, feels like a ministry. It allows us to be part of something that's redemptive. It's rooted in love and sacrifice and hope. And I don't think I added that to when I was, first sharing, just getting to walk alongside birth families and adoptive families during their most vulnerable and meaningful times. I think that just really sums up for Jen, and I can speak for her. That's how we feel, is just in such vulnerable moments. It just really reflects God's love for us.
Absolutely.
For them.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate y'all so much. I was looking forward to this one because I think it's so special.
Thank you.
Y'all enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.